Well, hello there, and welcome to the Webinar Talk Show. My name is Tom Singer.
And I'm Liz Green, and we're at a different time, Tom.
We are. It's not 11 o'clock.
We have a special event. That's right.
Well, we couldn't do 11 o'clock today because today was the National Speakers Association final day of their influence conference, and we didn't want to be broadcasting when that was happening.
Because we wanted to be on the broadcast watching what was happening. And we have had a fabulous time at that conference, and it has exceeded our expectations. I know we talked on a previous episode of what was planned. We're going to have a debrief with the NSA staff on how it all worked out and lessons learned and that sort of thing. Because
they did.
You're going to want to know.
Oh, they did. It should be a case study for the meetings industry about how to turn a planned couple thousand person meeting into a online event and spread the learning out for several months. So they did a great job.
Yeah, it was a 3.5-month conference instead of a 4-day conference. So we'll talk more about that. But we have, in the spirit of influence, one of the influence sponsors with us today.
And we're really excited because eSpeakers is a company that, as long as I've been a professional speaker, has certainly been an important part of how speakers run their business. It's also an important way that meeting planners can connect with people who are, speakers who want to be at their and should be at their conferences. So we have the co-founders of eSpeakers with us today here on the Webinar Talk Show, and that is Joe Heaps and Dave Reed. And basically what they do is eSpeakers is where the speaking industry does business on the web. And Dave basically makes the products, and Joe makes certain that everybody knows they exist. So welcome to the Webinar Talk Show.
Appreciate you.
Hey, thanks, Tom and Liz.
Well, and thank you for your sponsorship of our conference, because one of my favorite things to do is stop by the eSpeakers booth every year and say hi.
It's because we have snacks there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Snacks and free consulting on how to fix my profile that I probably haven't touched since the previous year.
Yeah, we do a lot of that. We love it.
Actually, we're missing that pretty big time this year because it's the biggest event for us in the whole year. And not attending in person is kind of leaving a hole in the year. It's been an odd year. So
it has indeed been an odd year. Yeah. And actually, that's one of the reasons that we asked you to join us here. My renewal came up, and I upgraded to the pro level last year at Influence because I went to the booth, mostly because Kate, the wonderful Kate Holgate, my manager, told me I had to. And I always listen to Kate. But when my renewal time came, or I knew it was coming, I started thinking about cash is a little tight, and what am I going to do? And I get this wonderful email from eSpeakers that basically said, hey, I know what you're thinking. Here's what we're going to do for you. And it was like you had read my mind. So good on you. But can you tell us a little bit about how you're making things work for your clients? And you have 2 sets of clients, right?
Yep, we do.
Yeah, speakers. Go ahead, Dave.
I was just going to say we have one set of clients that is our professional speakers, trainers, coaches, authors. Then the other set of our clients are event organizers. They're the meeting professionals who hire those speakers. So we're on both sides of that.
And we love them.
What's that?
We do love them.
We love those people.
Yeah. We all love those people.
We all love those.
Yeah. No, they're great, and it's great because it's not like a conflict between those two. That's the peanut butter and chocolate making a Reese's, right?
Right.
So yeah, it's good stuff. Joe, you were going to say something about that.
No, I was just going to say that like the whole COVID and pandemic and all that has just been really heavy on everybody, and we see it front and center. We are right in the trenches every single day, where we have speakers that are saying, hey, I'm just getting by, or there's a few speakers that are actually speaking more than they did, which is a surprise. But for the largest majority, I mean, every day is a little bit of a downer in the sense that you're speaking to so many people that are just struggling. They're having a hard time. And, you know, these are successful speakers and they just don't have anything on the calendar. Or if they
Well,
do,
yeah.
it's free, right?
and I would imagine
Mhm.
because you have two different marketplaces, two different constituencies that you serve, both of those are hit hard. I mean, obviously speakers are hit hard, but meeting planners can't have
Yeah.
most of their meetings. So
Yeah.
everybody you serve is having problems. So what are some of the steps you took to help both?
Well, one of the things that we found with the event organizers is they honestly haven't really got a good grasp on what to do to move forward as fast as the speakers did, right? And so one of the things we found from them is in March, when kind of everything tightened up, we saw a lot of jobs getting canceled or postponed or moved to virtual. And we had event organizers constantly you know, inquiring about, do you have virtual speakers? Do you have people who can present virtually? And we said, of course, we have tons. Everybody can present virtually, right? And so we started sending them a few options, and we got feedback like, hey, their internet's not great. Their lighting's really poor. You know, one speaker actually had the kitchen in the background of his video, and his wife was making dinner or whatever, you know. And it's nobody's fault. It's the pandemic that forced everybody out of their environment on the stage and into their home.
Right.
And like, that's just not normal, but it's a new environment and we have to kind of set a standard, like this is what's acceptable. So we, through a lot of discussion, decided, you know what, there's something that we can do to help and bridge. We quite honestly didn't quite know what to do with the pandemic either, you know, but we thought, well, we can give back, and we'll create a certification that was kind of the baseline of what it's of a virtual setting or their office, right, their home office. Yeah. And so we created the certified virtual presenter certification, which both of you have taken,
Yep.
right?
Yes.
In
And
fact,
passed.
I think I was one of the first. I mean, I think I was in
Yeah.
that first week.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, and we launched that the very first week of May, and it certifies different things like your internet speed and your lighting and your audio and just your setting if there are distractions, and there's a bunch of other things that we test. But it's a really low-level certification in regards to like what we're not testing your capabilities as a speaker or the content or anything like that. And it just blew up. We've had hundreds. We're almost have certified 800 people in like
That's
3 months.
fantastic.
Yeah.
And I fully expect by the end of August that we'll hit 1,000.
And it was a real test. I mean, it wasn't,
Right.
you know, when you talk about it being a basic level, that's true. But there were things I had to prepare for. I had to make sure, I had to make sure the lighting was right. And then at one point, they kick you out of the Zoom room or Microsoft Teams or wherever the speaker wanted to be tested. They kick you out and you have to log back in and they time you. Because the reality of the world we live in is our internet could boot us out. I could disappear right now. And that's just the
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not. I'm still here. But the reality is that part of being a professional is you have to get back in. And, you know, so that's part of the test is they kick you out of the room and they time you to see how long that you're back up right into that speech. And I thought that was a pretty ingenious thing to put in to the test.
And
Well,
one of
and
the
there were a
questions we
lot
get
of
asked a
things.
lot.
Yep.
Well, I was going to say one of the questions we get asked a lot by people who are getting assessed is, does everybody pass this? I mean, is this, you know, is this real? And not everybody passes by any stretch. We wind up passing most people eventually after more than one try, but on the first try, definitely not everybody gets it. We send them back with some homework. You need to improve this and this and this, and you can give it another try, right? But
Well, and I think that's the beauty of it, because all of the people that I've talked to that took that assessment, we were all a little bit nervous about it because there's a certain level of working without a net when you're in the virtual arena, because you can't control everything. So it's about thinking through what you would do if something goes wrong. And I don't know that I thought through all of those things until I received the list of things I was going to be tested on and was like, oh, well, I need to think about that a little bit. So I think there's, even though you said it was a baseline, there's real value in passing this.
yeah. And we've heard, in fact, I was talking with one of our staff members that works with the event organizers a lot. we call them, if you hear me use the term buyers, in our world, they're the buyers, right?
Sure.
So it works with the event organizers a lot. And she says that as she's been talking with those buyers about which speaker to hire would be great, that she's able to offer them, one of the things that we take during the assessment is what we call your virtual proof video. It's a little 60-second clip of you on Zoom, on whatever tool you're certifying on, and we put that on your certificate. And she says that the event organizers love that. They love an opportunity to see you in Zoom, in your environment, to know that you look good, to know that you sound good. And that's been a huge selling point.
Well, now that you've told me that, I need to go redo mine.
We've had some requests. You look great though, Tom. You look great.
You can redo it at any time. Once you're certified, you can, if you get new technology, which is an interesting part of this, because in the beginning, many speakers didn't have the equipment they wanted. They went to Amazon and said, I need to buy this, and everything's out. We could buy a camera or a mic or anything, you know, and it's been interesting to see speakers eventually get that, and worldwide, right? I've certified people all around the world, and they're in the same situation. And so I think it's a good, I don't know the right exact word for, I want to say come to Jesus moment for everybody in the industry, right?
A reckoning.
That makes sense.
Another way of saying that, but that's what came to my mind. Of like, hey, we need to be better prepared and more well-rounded. There were speakers that didn't have the setting or the tools to be able to even talk to a client at home, whether it's a virtual presentation or just talking to a client and making sure it's a professional setting. They didn't have the tools. And that really surprised me, because a lot of the speakers, I'm on Zoom with them or wherever, and they have mics and they have cameras, but I was surprised at how many people didn't. So I think this is a chance for everybody to kind of come up to speed and be, but on the other side of that, there are some speakers that have done a phenomenal job. They have an amazing setup. Wow.
I mean, that's level 2 stuff with, full studio setup, and that's awesome. One of the things that we get asked a lot on these assessments too is, do I need that? Do I need 5 cameras and a switcher and, intro music and
fly-in graphics?
Yeah, fly-in graphics. And of course the answer is no, you do not need that. We got speaking friends who do and have done amazing, outstanding things. And if you want to do that, that's great, but that's not required for most of the work we do.
So that was one of the most interesting things about the National Speakers Association Influence Conference that took place over the last 3 days, is I saw some of the greatest online presentations I've ever seen. And yet some of them were edited like a TV show. I mean, it wasn't just let's film it and go. It was multi-camera, multi-location. Slick. And then others were standing in front of their fireplace talking from the heart. And the reality is both were equally great. So what are you hearing from the meeting planner side as far as what are most people preferring? Does it matter? Do they care? Are there some who want one versus the other?
I don't know that we're getting a lot of requests for the really slick professional things. That's not something that's getting asked for a lot. Like, hey, I need a presenter who can present virtually, and they need to have 3 cameras, and they need to have a post-production manager in there. So that's not to say that they wouldn't love it if it showed up, but it's not what they're asking for necessarily or expecting from folks.
And just to add to that, I don't think they're asking for it because they don't quite know what they need. And from my personal experience in talking with them and working with our internal staff who works with them directly, there's about half of the event organizers that have a clear vision of what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. And they're quickly pivoting and saying, let's do a virtual event, or let's on an in-person event that will have a hybrid element. I personally believe that there won't be any events in person that won't have a hybrid element into it. Like attendees will join, speakers will join, whatever it is. We did a big event where we hired Simon Sinek for big telecom group out in the Philippines, and they were really skeptical about doing a virtual event, first one they've ever done. And they did it along with our encouragement and help, and Simon, of course, knocked it out of the park and did a great job. But they had 8,000 employees on this Zoom call, and they said this provided a platform that we would have never been able to like reproduce in person. Like it's different. You can ask questions, you can see people. It's just different. It provides a different element. So they knew what they were. Now they want virtual, right?
Right.
But I think the other half that doesn't know exactly what they want yet, I think they might like somebody that says, I have a professional environment, I have the switchers, I have everything, I can produce this for you. And I think there might be a spot in the industry for that type of presentation.
Yeah.
I think it's just expanding.
Oh,
that you know, like it's not been great. Let's the last several months, it's not been great.
That's a good way to say it.
But I do think as we move forward, in some ways we opened up new opportunities. Because you're right, Joe. I think as we move into going back and meeting in person again, are we going to leave those people who enjoyed doing virtual things with us behind? I doubt it. You know, it's how are we going to integrate those things together? And, you know, Tom and I have been doing that work for 6 years. So we're big fans of that.
Yeah. I mean, we've believed for a long time that if you're going to do a hybrid event, it's more than just broadcasting your main stage to people watching on their computers. And that's why we think having a separate host for the at-home audience, you know, was a great idea. And 6 years ago, we took that to the marketplace and people said, that's awesome, but they weren't ready to invest in the at-home audience. Do you think that this idea of meetings, live meetings, investing in the at-home audience, do you think that's really here to stay?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Every single event that we have taken to signing and like actually closing the event and producing, or like the speaker presents themselves, the actual event date, every one of them have been hybrid or all virtual. Early on, they were all virtual, but there's been some hybrid elements to it, you know, and everything that's planned out in the future. They may have a physical date, like we're going to meet in person, but you know, there's a hybrid element just from our experience so far.
Well, I'll tell you what I'm really looking forward to. And Tom, you and Liz have been ahead of this wave a little bit, but you know, you picture that American entertainment audiences got used to radio back in the 1940s and 50s, right? They would listen to these radio dramas on the radio. And when television came along, adding vision to the audio, you know, people didn't just want a radio play done in front of a camera, right? There's all this whole new world of possibility that you can do now that you've got video to go with the audio. And I think that we are in that kind of renaissance right now with this. And I think that people like you guys are going to continue to find really cool new ways to use this format to do things we haven't seen before.
Yeah, we don't know of anyone else, and I'm sure there's other people who have really taken this idea of the interview into the idea of your virtual conference being such an important part rather than just talking heads over PowerPoint.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And I was talking to a speaker last week that had a kind of a cool idea of like they're making more money than they did before at their event. And the way they make more money is they have books and CDs and CDs. Who plays CDs anymore?
Download.
I said that and I'm like, what is that? They have stuff at the back of the room, right? And that you can sell, and it's constantly dwindled over the years. And they did this live event all online, and he said, hey, by the way, I've got these books. Here's the link. I'll put it in the chat. Here's this. Doubled what he'd been doing before.
Cool.
So it was just because it was easy. It was right there. You don't have to walk to the back of the room and do it, and he doubled it. So there's another opportunity there for speakers to, you know, upsell products and stuff because it's right in front of people. It's easy to do. You're right on your computer right then.
Yep.
That makes sense. The other thing, because doing this reminds me, Tom, of doing a conference when we interview the sponsors. Because one of the things that's really hard is to do that trade show part of the conference, because you guys were saying you're missing that experience.
Your booth isn't there. And a lot of these conferences that are trying to do digital booths, I've participated in several of them, and it's just not the same. It's not even close.
It's hard
to giving that same level of engagement.
Yeah. We honestly, as eSpeakers, we've never tried to do, we haven't done a digital booth yet, haven't attempted that. But yeah, I can't imagine how that would work in a comparable way.
Right.
Well, that's why what we've done in the groups that we've worked with is we'll interview the sponsors in between different speakers and breaks, and it gives them a chance to highlight their company and what they do and what they offer and why they sponsored in a way that people are accustomed to. You talk about the audience being accustomed. We're accustomed to watching The View or Live with Ryan and Kelly or Oprah or Larry King. And that's one of the things that I think we're going to see as conferences stay online is they're going to have more of that television feel than a ballroom feel. Do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's a different, they're going to have to change their format as they move into a different, you know, online versus, that's a great idea to do that with vendors.
Well, and we had to do that just slightly when we, because we weren't appearing in person for Influence, we had to say, well, what are we going to do? Because normally at Influence, we offer a pretty big, deep discount for new customers coming on, right? And we know that if they'll try it out for a year, that our retention rate's pretty good, and we'll try to retain them and they'll stay with us. And so that's been a really good model for us. And so we didn't really have that this year. And in conjunction with, you know, really bad economy worldwide and just things are really tough in our industry. Dave and I got together and Dave had this really great ideas like, hey, let's provide some additional benefits to everybody that is renewing, first of all. So, you know, we offer a free certification for anybody that renews. And we offer, you know, discounts with some additional with other partners. And I don't know, Dave, do you want to mention?
And a t-shirt,
And a t-shirt. No, you know what? It was, Joe was gracious to give me credit, but I don't deserve it. It actually came from some of our speaking friends, some of our longtime speaking friends who have said, you know what, this big, huge discount that you give to people signing up new, never been with you before. These are new customers. But I've been a loyal customer. I've been with you, you know, 2, 5, 10. Some of our customers have been with us for 20 years now. And what are you doing for me, right? Help me feel good about this. So that was the impetus for it. And so we thought to ourselves, what can we do to show our gratitude and to show our loyalty back to these customers that are loyal to us?
And that is a great story for people in the industry, not just the meeting or speaking.
Absolutely.
Industry. A lot of people are hurting right now, and companies like eSpeakers who are saying, what can I do to ease some of that pain this year, I think are the ones who are going to be remembered on the other side. So kudos to you for doing that.
That's cool of you. I do have a picture of the t-shirt if you want to see it, if that's appropriate.
Mine hasn't arrived yet. I'm looking forward to it.
Can I share this really quick?
Sure,
yeah,
absolutely.
Right?
My renewal,
but it's in my photo thing, so you'll have to see here.
Nice. Keep calm and zoom on. I love that. I wear a large.
That's the front, and then this is the back.
eSpeakers.
I love it.
Yeah.
Hire me on eSpeakers. That's awesome.
I
wear a large. I don't know if my renewal is.
It's on its way. They're actually the first ones are being shipped today. So
awesome.
Yeah,
how fun.
Yeah,
we spent all our money on our male model for that, by the way. So.
Boy.
Well, before we let you go, what advice do you have for both constituencies that you serve? What advice do you have for speakers moving forward for what easily could be another year or more? And what advice do you have for meeting planners to be able to connect better and to be able to thrive in their own lane in this industry?
I've got a couple of thoughts, and then maybe Joe can pile on there as well. And honestly, it's a little bit the same for both of them. This is a weird year, certainly, but there is no speaker or event organizer that I know who's been successful year over year over year doing the same thing. The business seascape is always changing, right? It's definitely bigger this year, definitely bigger change this year than normal, but it's always changing. And if you're not in the mode of evolving with that and coming up with new things with that so that you can float on top instead of submerging, then you don't have a viable business model in any condition, in any industry. And so that would just be the advice. And that's not novel advice, but to both speakers and event organizers, to be agile. Don't get stuck in your old ways. Be very open-minded in new ways to do things, and stay afloat.
Joe?
That's good advice.
Yeah, that is great, Dave. Hard to top that, or top it or match it or whatever. But in my experience so far with this is this industry is a big ship, and you can't just pivot and say we're going this direction really fast. It's every little notch that's going to take us to that direction. And as speakers or as meeting planners, it's not going to, you're not going to be able to accomplish it all in one move. It's going to be little moves over time. And so, for speakers, it's getting your certification. It's adapting people. Well, there's people like Jason Hewlett. He's done this a little bit before, but was mostly an entertainer and now has kind of branched over into giving corporate presentations and mixed in his entertainment as well. So he's doing the same thing. In fact, Jason outfitted his whole house with all this stuff I'm sure you saw on the Influence and done a really good job. But I think that it takes speakers, you've got to take this serious because this isn't going away. You are going to give presentations online for the foreseeable future. I mean, I just don't see a time where it's not. You may be in person, the audience is online. So you're going to have to be familiar with this setting. If you're not, I've done some certifications for speakers that just didn't feel comfortable behind the camera. They're more comfortable in front of an audience. And so I think my point is that you've got to get up to speed because this isn't going away. And I think for event organizers, it's just an adapt and move forward in the future. And for speakers, particularly, we're providing a great way to hire speakers through eSpeakers. Both Liz and Tom are in our directory, and with many other speakers as well. They're the best, though. Let's just say that. And
we're going to put that on a continuous loop.
Yeah,
there you go.
Exactly. And look for the little badge where they're certified virtually, and that's where you can put you don't have to do the groundwork of vetting of trying to find out if they have a good environment, if they have good enough internet. Just look for the badge and you're good to go. So that's probably what I would give event organizers at this point is look for the badge and trust it, and you'll be safe.
Yeah.
And don't cancel your event. Let's figure out don't cancel your event.
Let's figure it out.
Hey,
don't cancel.
I will say this, out of all the events we had in our event system at the time, we either took postponements or we talked them into postponing it or going virtual. We didn't have one single cancel.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So, and that's credit to our staff who really worked with them and tried to help them see the value of it and things like that. But there are many in the industry, obviously, that just said, nope, canceled, done, like, we're out of it. And, so
if somebody watches this and they're either a speaker or they're a meeting professional and they're like, I don't know that much about eSpeakers, how do they find you?
Easy. Just head to eSpeakers.com. Right there on our homepage, you can pick your path, whether you are an event organizer or whether you are a presenter, and find out more about us from there. But eSpeakers.com, that's the spot.
And right on that page is where, if you're interested in being certified, there's a little button there about being certified. It'll take you right down that path. So that's an easy place to go if you want to know more about that.
Yeah. Read the instructions. Be prepared for your certification. It's not a no-brainer.
That is right. That is right. You don't want to show up, get kicked out of the room and not know what to do, or they will fail you.
Hey, and for all the event organizers watching this, Tom and Liz, you need them to do the MC moderation, do the team stuff here. He's got awesome speakers. I've known these guys for a long time. So
and they're not new to this either. They've been doing it for a while.
Yeah.
So
thank you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. That's very nice of you. And we love doing this. Tom and I did 25 breakout sessions over 3 months for the National Speakers Association. We are in the flow at this point in terms of
we created 5 or 7 different formats that a presentation can be done in when you're doing a webinar format. And all of them included Q&A from your audience and interviews from Elias and I. And yet every single one of the 25 was just a little bit different.
Yeah.
And
That's a great example of pivoting, by the way, guys.
Yeah.
Awesome. Way to go.
And the thing that we've learned in the last 3 days in terms of our main stage conference was that community is just as important as the content part. And it's not that hard to provide opportunities for your members to interact with each other in the virtual environment. And that's just as important because that connection is part of the reason we go to conference.
And you just have to get creative to find ways to let people have great content, listening to amazing speakers, but also to participate in the chat room or to afterwards go to what we call the hotel lobby bar. It was sort of an impromptu thing I did in my Zoom room, and 30 or 40 people came after every session and just debriefed the way you would in the hotel bar. And that's something that I'm now going to recommend to all my clients. Not everybody has to come, but for those who choose, it's just those impromptu hallway conversations are often the best part of a conference. We don't have to lose those when we go virtual.
No.
Hey, I'm proposing that this become one of your next webinar topics for this. I would love to learn more about that. I bet other people would too. You guys should do a show on that.
Oh, about how to do the community part?
Yeah. The community.
Oh,
do a show on the community part.
That's a really good idea.
Yeah.
All right. We should have Courtney Clark back on because she was the one who did the Meet the Pros and the Dine Arounds for NSA. We'll have her back.
See, thank you. Thank you, Dave and Joe. See, that was a great idea.
Yeah.
All right. We're all in this together.
Absolutely we are. I would encourage you to go to eSpeakers.com and hang out with Dave and Joe because that is fantastic. And if you are planning something where you think Tom and I might be a great fit, visit us at webinartalkshow.com and absolutely like us on Facebook at Webinar Talk Show.
Yep, we'll be back on Wednesday with another episode of the Webinar Talk Show.
Have a great day until then. Bye.